Hey everybody, it's your girl Charlotte Van Horn with Black Expats in Panama. And I am here today with my most favorite guest ever. It has been so hard for me to get him to come and interview with me. I have just been trying to get on his calendar forever and ever and ever, but finally he's here. And I would just like to introduce to you Mr. Alfredo Gibbs Van Horn, none other than my husband, man, friend, and one of my most favorite people in the whole wide world. Hey, Alfredo.
Hey, lady, how you doing, my lady?
I'm doing fine. It is so good to see you. And I've been wanting to interview you because you have an interesting perspective on Panama, especially being that you are returning Panama, which I haven't interviewed yet. So please introduce yourself to the people.
Well, thank you for having me.
Uh-huh.
I really appreciate this opportunity to express, into one of the few interviews I've done, and one of those was the other one. But yeah, I'm 65, just turned 65 on October 6th, and married. Got three lovely daughters and two grandkids, they're twins. Oh, I
Cousin
certainly,
twins.
yes, my goodness, keep you busy. Well, I was born and raised in Panama, and I moved to New York. And when I was in New York, I decided to join the Air Force, and I served 23 years. And in within those 23 years, I have the great opportunity and the blessing to meet my lovely wife in Biloxi, Mississippi. I don't know what she was doing down there, a Jersey girl, wandering around the street of Mississippi, and she caught my eyesight, and that's history. Um, my and I have to do one of the things in my values in my life would be, and my greatest passion has always been hiking and camping. Uh, there's some after I left Panama because that's what I had in Panama, and yeah, greatly reduced once I leave, but with my true heart, and to change change the people's heart. And it's been my greatest passion, especially I have the opportunity to change a what is the word I'm looking for? He was one of those racist folks from Abilene, and at the end of where
The
he has to
Amazing
leave.
Grace guy.
No, this is I don't want to mention his name. This is a good guy in Lubbock, Texas, that he
Okay.
gave me a hard time, and he thought I was about to get him and stuff. And I took his record when I first interviewed him, and I ripped his record out because it was nasty. He has so much dirty stuff. It was racial stuff. And I told him, hey, you come here for me and stuff. And I said, you got great potential. You a good person. Let's give it a try. And he had less than a year. And in his going away party, he came up and confessed to me. They only trust two people in the world. It was myself and his grandfather, and I changed his life. So great achievement for me, and all this stuff. And there was a couple of those like that too, and
Mm-hmm.
people seeking me, but
That you were able to change his heart. Can you
and
get a little closer to your computer? I mean, I just don't hear you that well. So just pull your computer a little closer to you.
okay.
Yes.
Can you
Okay.
hear me better now?
Yes.
Can I
Just speak
raise?
up for me.
Oh, you know
So
something? I'm sorry, my volume is down.
okay.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, sir. It
Uh,
is. So you came to the United States about 40 years ago, right? You
yes,
came to
this
the
was in
United States.
I came via through New York in 1976, the period of the Son of Sam, when I was like, okay, this is in the United States, this is New York. Okay. They get a fool run around, he's not looking for Jews, so I think I'd be okay. And it so happened that I run into the same thing with a blizzard that winter.
Mm.
I thought everybody was going crazy. I thought it was every day. But in the movie, I was the only one showed up to work. I walked about 8 miles in the snow. And I called my boss, like, hey man, it's payday. I'm waiting for you.
For your pay. Okay, so you went into the military, and let's hop back to when did you decide that you were going to return to Panama? Have you always known that you were going to return to Panama?
As soon as I left the US, I knew I wanted to come back to live my my golden years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's that. There was no doubt about it and stuff, and that was always been in my heart.
Okay. I can remember when we met, and when we met, you know how ignorant and country bumpkin I was. I could never imagine leaving the United States for anything as far as living. I mean, I don't think I had ever even traveled outside of the United States at that point. But I can remember you saying to me then, and that was 27 years ago, that when you retired, that you were going to return to Panama. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's nice. Because I just couldn't imagine. Well, I didn't know that we would be together forever and be married, and that I would be come to Panama with you one day. But my mind back then was just not that forward thinking that I thought that we would actually do that. But then we came to Panama. I think the first time you brought me to Panama was 2004.
Was it 2004?
It was 2004. That was the first time. I think that was when I got my first passport. I think.
Yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I do remember is that when I first met you, and you must have forgotten, you told me that you would follow me to the end of the world. And I guess Panama is pretty close to it.
I do remember that. But at the time, you were telling me you had to move to Texas.
You didn't figure it was going to go.
And that's how we ended up being together. But I'm so glad that things worked out the way that it did. And you know how much I love Panama. I could not ever imagine loving, a country like I do. And that's probably because I just love you so much.
And thank you for loving my country.
So tell us now that you have retired. I mean, most people know that we live in Brisas Del Golf Norte, which is about 15 minutes outside of Panama City and 15 minutes from Tocumen Airport.
Right.
So tell us what it's like now that you're back in Panama as a retiree living in Brisas Del Golf.
Well, one of the things that I like I encountered since I came to Panama is the traffic jam is completely different from when I was growing up. And there's one thing that I encountered is that Christmas. I was at Christmas, but it's a Panama driver's drive with the written is like a dance, and you better know how to dance. And it's come to the type of music. They're getting cut in front of you, and they just know the speed and the horn. And that's one of the things.
So the driving is different. But you didn't really drive though before when you left, you were young.
I know, but we still didn't have that. I think a couple of the friends that was older, they drove.
Yes,
it wasn't the same.
It seems like everybody in Panama has a car.
At least three. They try to do it, and they try to drive two at the same time.
Yes, and it seems like if you don't have to stop, that means that you're a skilled driver.
Yes.
So you just if you could just keep moving, that means that you're a skilled driver.
They don't stop at us.
So the driving is different. Now, when you talk about Brisas Del Golf Norte in particular, what is it that you like about Brisas Del Golf?
I always liked this area from even when it was first developed, and it was called, now it's the older town called San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a couple of friends that live out here, and I always visit. In those days, I could walk from the entrance to where the tongue of San Antonio started. So, but then this portion of the that Brisas is started developing about 25 years ago. After talking to Jessica, she was part of the committee in the development committee, and I like because it just offer more. It's like a city within the city. It has everything and inclusive. We have the only thing that was missing was a movie theater, and that's getting built.
Is it? Are they building one on the corner down there by Signature Plaza? Is that what's coming up there down there by Reba?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
So, but
we have
even still, they have a movie theater at Metro Mall,
yes, Metro Mall, yeah, but
which is close by.
yes, but I can walk to from where we living at. We can walk to everything,
Yes.
and then we can, if we want to, we can walk to the movie theater if we want to, and it's a little bit stretch to go for a date and walk. You can, and we got a golf course close by, which is to get in the membership, extremely strict. But we got pretty much everything that we need in this area. You don't have to leave this town at all to get in it.
Yeah.
Okay, they have everything that in this.
It's conveniently located off of the Corredor Norte. I mean, we have an exit that's it's completely dedicated to actually comes right into our neighborhood.
You have to form no line.
Hmm.
We have to form no line, no red light. Just get up the corridor.
Just right off in there. You have I wanted you to speak to, but first of all, thank you for your service. You're retired Air Force, and I wanted you to speak to American vets, our vets from the United States that might consider coming to Panama, and tell them what your experience has been as a veteran, as a U.S. veteran in Panama.
Well, one of my greatest concern coming to Panama when I decided then that it was time to come to Panama, and that decision was made by my dad had surgery, and I decided at that point that I was going to come home, at least the leg, and help my sister take care of the parents. And my biggest concern was they didn't have a hospital that directly took it for veterans. They had something, but it was semi-public, semi-private. And when I was applying for my veterans, my disability benefits, I got one exam. I had a 6-month exam to go, and my dad had his surgery, so I told him, "Hey, I got to go to Panama," and I got ordered from the state, from Virginia, and at that point, for some reason, they say they will look for, and I said, "Well, what will be the location for my interviews and my appointments?" So I looked up in the computer, and it pops out Hospital Brisas. I said, "That can't be. This is close to my house." And it's like, this is a walking distance.
Yeah.
And it was the most amazing thing with that team. I have to say that team is, when I walked in, they'll say, "This is your hospital." I think I was the first customer. Just open up. That this hospital is yours. And I said, "Good." And the doctors took care of you, the nurses, the directors, everything that gave out. I remember one time I felt ill. I just called him in the middle of the night and said, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to the hospital." Say, "Okay, I'll call and make sure everything's ready for you." And that's so.
They treat you really well. They really do.
And they have for the VAs, for the veterans, they have a great team that's truly dedicated to, and they really do care for the veterans. They had veterans in here in this area, all the way to Colombia, that have never received any treatment, and that including from World War, Vietnam vets, and some folks.
You said
90 years old.
who have never received treatment?
Yeah. They left after they got out the military, and they came either to Colombia, Panama, or Costa Rica. And and they're from and some of them are even Americans that just come and just live in the woods. There's one guy that I met in one of our annual meetings. He lives in up in the mountains, and he came out of the woods, literally. He came out of the woods, and he was crying, and it was a much needed effort. And the folks from Texas, the one that's carrying this torch.
Okay. So you said you came to a meeting. Is there an organization you have meetings as veterans? You have veterans meetings?
They have the biggest one, the most proactive one is Dr. Butcher. She's a psychologist and very extremely nice. She's, when I first got there, they seek me out and they say, hey, we have a 1 year, and I wasn't getting no treatment and stuff. And I would say, hey, we having some cookout, come on out. We used to have a quick briefing. That's when I went to Chorrera.
Okay.
But she has two offices, one in Chorrera for the folks that live out there, one here and one in Chiriquí, and she also serves in Colombia. And she's a busy woman. And she and from since then she has been also a blessing.
Yes. And so, and then also I know that they've had some things downtown at the embassy. Was it at the embassy or the embassy sponsored it? They've had,
Yes.
I don't know if you were able to make that, but they do things periodically. So I just wanted to, make the point that, if you are a U.S. veteran, that Brisas Del Golf Norte is a good location because you have access to Brisas Del Golf Hospital. And they do serve U.S. veterans. So I think that's very important. And I was going to ask you, a lot of people are always concerned about, how much, it costs to live in Panama. But I think that you can say you can live comfortably in Panama on your military retirement.
Right. Yes. And it depends on what the lifestyle. I think in the low income, middle class, $400 a month, people can get by. $400 a month, that'll put you in the lower middle class, and middle class range, lower portion, and for two person, for one, two, you add another $300, and they can get along, pretty good and stuff. But with the military retirement, and you just they will get along pretty good.
It'll be fine. And also, I just think too that in Panama, whereas you may not, depending on what your retirement income is, you may not be able to live everywhere in Panama because Panama has gotten a bit pricey in some areas, and it is more expensive than some other countries in Central and South America.
But, U.S.
Yeah, well, the Brisa. The one thing that I do have to say about Brisa is not necessarily inexpensive to live. It's like, I don't think that you're going to find, I don't think you're going to find any place to rent for $400 in Brisa. Do you?
Yes, you can. And for now, right now, the rent that used to be $1,500 a month is going between $600 to $800. And that's because of and that was right before the pandemic, for a year or two, that the real estate somehow reached a point where the rental wasn't getting no rental. And those folks that want for rent, they was finding themselves low on the price. Even in this neighborhood, we went up from 1,500 to 8 to 6. And what a lot of
that's good to know.
Yeah.
If people are looking to rent, that rents are negotiable at this time.
Yes.
And also to say that so if you're saying that you can get a unit in that development, Brisas Del Golf Norte, Paete Alps.
Yes.
If you can get an $800 a month rental there, those units are 3 bedrooms,
Right.
actually 3.5 baths.
Exactly.
When you consider the maid's quarter,
Outer room. Yeah.
3.5 baths. You have 2 pools, clubhouse, fitness center. You have 24-hour security. You have
All right.
an HOA. What else? A playground, a soccer
Playground, soccer
field,
field, tennis field, basketball,
tennis court,
basketball.
and they have a game room. Don't
Yes.
they have a game room over there too?
Yeah, that's open.
Okay, so I know some of the stuff may not be open, but I'm just saying that that's quite a bit that you can get for that amount, and it is
in a gym.
It is
In
a
a-
lovely neighborhood.
In a gym.
And a gym. I said fitness center. I said
Oh,
fitness
yeah.
center.
Okay.
Okay, so so can you tell us, so the one of the main things that's different since you left that you notice is the traffic. And I know that sometimes you tell me that some of the words with technology and the internet are new words for you that you've kind of had to learn. Just like, for example, somebody, we've learned new words in the US this year, such as social distance, social distance, those kind of things. So they have to do with, marking of an era. So I wanted you to share about your military, and then also what advice would you give to returning expats? I'm sorry, what advice would you give to returning Panamanians?
Well, to anybody, notice the person, let me get some people. My advice for Panamanians or anyone coming to Panama or returning to Panama is if you drive it, don't blow your horn. I say if people are driving crazy around you, just what works for me is that you keep your distance, keep your low speed, don't try to race with folks, and don't blow your horn. I expect it every day, so for cars to cutting. Don't be alarmed. Expect it is going to happen. If they get a stop sign, they're not stopped. They don't even do a California road. They just roll right into the traffic and stuff if you get a space. If you hit your brakes or take your foot off the accelerator, that's a sign it's okay for me to cut it. But the motion is to stay within your peace. Don't get, because that's the way they might seem aggressive, but in Panama, usually the situation is not as violent as other countries and stuff, like nearby countries that have been in war for 13 years. But they, like even the teeth, and they don't get into this big organized crime like they get in other places. But one of the biggest thing that I would say, and what the advice my cousin gave me and gave Charlotte is, whatever you know and whatever you learn and know from the United States, forget about it. Leave it right there. This is
Or
United
from
States.
wherever you come from.
Yes,
I mean, that could apply for wherever you come from.
exactly.
Panama is its own rhythm. It's its own beat. And, and some of my guests have been talking about, just how they feel when they're in Panama. And that's just something you really can't describe. Like I'll just say, I sleep really good. Huh?
Be patient. Yeah, is a good exercise to practice your patience. Panama is.
Yeah. It's just different.
Yes.
It's different, but I sleep. I know I sleep really good when I'm in Panama. Is there anything else? So, the traffic and just kind of expect things to be different because you're not at home anymore.
Exactly. Now,
But the reason that I asked specifically about returning Panamanian is because it is a difference.
yes,
It is a difference because there's a difference between you who grew up in Panama, even though things have changed a lot, is a different perspective for you who grew up in Panama and who has returned to Panama, as opposed to me who was, exposed to Panama as the first time. It is a difference.
It is even with the language.
Huh?
Even with the language. Even with the language, if they are, even though I grew up here, my first language is Spanish, I discovered this. They know certain words because since I've been gone since the 70s, there's new development, there's new words and technologies, created new terminologies that it took me a minute to learn them, especially in the internet. How do you say, your email address? How do you say, what I'm saying? So it took me a minute to just catch up with the terminologies that you use.
Yeah.
And only the old school guys that came with me, we just speak the street lingo just for the heck of it. But they have their own lingo. They have, like it says sopa, which means soup, and which means is que pasó, which is, they call it sopa, which is soup, but it's backwards. And if it's backwards, it means que pasa, que sopa, que pasa. So those kind of things, because I was like, when they asked me for sopa, I said, what is that? But one of the key things, also, if you're doing a real estate transaction, that was the biggest shock for me. And that when we purchased the house, because in my days, they never did that way. And the guy said, okay, we're just closing. You need to come get the keys. And Charlotte and I, Diana and I were so excited. We got to the house. Oh, she held my hand. And, so we got here. And I was like, said pictures, no pictures, us the holes in the ceiling, no lights on. I said, oh, you guys gonna finish tomorrow? No, we're done. I said, where's the pictures? Say you don't get a picture, you just get a shell.
Yeah.
And I was like, even though from Panama, I was shocked because I don't know when that transition happened, but it happened. And the advice that I have to tell you is that if you're involved in any real estate transaction, make sure you have a lawyer or realtor, agent
that you can trust.
Exactly. The word right out of my mouth. You can trust, and they have your they care, good referral. Or they're just like in the U.S. They just want to make money. But a lawyer is always a good thing to have in the mix.
Well, and I think too, a lawyer for me, my perspective was, you handle most of the things that happen in Panama, and it's because you're fluent in the language and you can read it and everything like that, but I can't. And that when you're doing a transaction as big as buying a house, like one of the largest investments that people make in their entire lives, you need to know what's going on, and so I really recommend that if you are moving to Panama and you are not fluent in Spanish and English, even if you are a returning Panamanian, because you've been gone long enough, depending on what your lifestyle has been, you may have lost some of the language. And you may not even be that great at the grammar anymore. But to make sure that you have representation that can help you navigate that is absolutely essential.
Exactly. And especially a lot of returning, and this is for the returning Panamanians that come back and they say, well, I don't need a lawyer to go get certain things or legal transactions. They just go into the municipality and get it. It doesn't work. Things are a lot more complex now. And I said, if you don't want the headaches, get a lawyer, they'll handle it for you. You don't even have to form a line for more than 20 minutes. And you just go sign and pick up your stuff and you're out of there. And things will go a lot faster. Trust me, it goes a lot faster than trying to do it yourself.
Yes.
Like, well, I didn't know we needed this. Well, I didn't know I needed that. And that's the
It's worth the investment,
it
to
is.
have professionals. And to tell you the truth, if you're coming from a place like the United States, don't come to Panama thinking that you're going to have to pay a gazillion dollars to have an attorney, because the price is just not the same. I mean, you're going to have some coins
Yeah.
to have an attorney, but I thought that our attorney did an amazing job.
Right.
And it wasn't that much. It was less than $1,000 for him to oversee the entire thing with building the house. Remember, he came out, he took pictures of the construction for us. He spoke English, he communicated, with English to me.
That's a key thing.
Huh?
That's a very key thing. Make sure they're bilingual.
Yes, he communicated in English to me, and that made me feel a lot better and a lot secure about the process. But I was surprised when there were no light fixtures. And so, I'm surprised when it was so, it's like an act of Congress, and it might be better now, but when we were making that move, I just can remember like an act of Congress to get to the cable, and having that things notarized, and it was just a lot. It was a lot. And that is when Greg's advice really kicked in. And I think I was so done by just the red tape of the whole getting the cable internet. He said, This is not the United States. This is Panama. And I think it changed my entire perspective on that. So is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
Yes, but to expand on what
talk about, Brisa, what it was, how you decided on Brisa, and what you like about it.
Oh, before you go back on the point expand on the point you were saying about doing something different. I do remember we went to a resort, and we want to pay and register for a resort. And we said, well, we want to register for dinner. And this was a high-end resort. And they said, well, okay, just go all the way down the hallway and peek down and there's a little bit of this. And she registered us for the dinner. So she wrote a little piece of receipt and said, well, you have to go back to the register.
to the reception desk.
And pay. And I said, okay, well, we just came here. So actually could just charge us from the beginning. So we went back over there. Hey, then she gives a different receipt to come back, bring it up, and then she type up a different receipt. I said, my goodness. So those are the kind of things that you can have to expect, and just be patient and just enjoy the journey. And the thing I have to say, it's been a blessing to be here in Brisas. And I was just recalling the other day and how I was also want to have a beach house in a house in a condo in the city. That was my game plan. And we was going to look at this beach house in San Carlos, and we drove we drove to San Carlos. I think it was my dad, you and I, and we was going to meet this realtor.
You mean
Hazel was there too? Yeah, and we was going to go meet this realtor in San Carlos, and we had to get off the main drag, and we went into the small little town, and there was this dog. It was a poor little town, a real country, and there was this dog laying in the middle of the road. And it rode just like one lane, and that dog looked up and he said, "You guys gonna have to go around." And Cheyenne said, "Make a U-turn." I said, "Honey, I don't want to pass this dog." And I said, "Hold on, we here, let's go look." I said, I don't even want to look at it. It says a gated community is right on the beaches. I don't care.
I'm not going by all that. I'm
I
not
know.
going by all that to get to my house. I'm not. And I guess some people, they don't care.
Mhm.
Their spot is their spot. And if everything else around it is not up to par, fine. Their spot is their spot. But that just didn't make me happy.
But on the way back now, and I think that's where we are. When you have, and I think Oprah said, that first gut feeling and stuff is,
Yes.
is the one you go with and stuff. Is the truth thing, and it's exactly what the Lord had for us and stuff. So we go back, and it was starting to rain and it was storming. And she said, "What do you say?" Well, I want to see Brisas. We talk about. You told me, you talk about Brisas, and I was like, we gotta come back next time. We come back. And you said, it's raining right now. And you said, look over there. The sun's coming out over that section over there. So where we heading to is sunshine. And I was like, I sure didn't want to drop in the weather like that. But sure enough, by the time we get there, the sun was down bright and shiny, and we came in and we came into a great deal. We meet a great agent. She was fabulous, and as a matter of fact, she was about to leave when we
Yes.
get.
She had closed out.
Yep, and she's like the
Open
assistants.
up for us.
Yeah, between her and the boss, they treated us really, really,
They
really nice.
did.
Yes, they both retired now.
They
And,
did.
yeah, and
And I like the fact that we had a builder,
yes,
because I
yes.
don't think that in building that house. And by the way, I'm in the United States right now. Alfredo is in Panama, and we have been separated by COVID since March. And
Man,
but I don't think that I would have wanted to just have a bunch of contractors that I had to vet and know. And for myself, it was so much easier for us to have a contractor. And
mm-hmm.
it was who built our place?
Grupo Residencial.
Grupo Residencial. Yes. And I thought they did pretty good.
Yes,
I
and
thought
they're
that they
doing
did
better.
pretty good. I thought that they addressed our concerns. They came back, they did touch-up work, when it
Mm-hmm.
was necessary. And I mean, I just think that they've done, pretty well for us throughout. But it would have been hard to try to manage, contractors and hire a project manager and all of that from a distance. So I think having the attorney
Yes,
there or somebody there to watch the development
not even, not even,
functions.
not even so. It's like if you're going to build, and I'm with you, if you're going to build and hire your own contractor, you need to be in place.
Yeah.
Like you
You need to
either
be
will
here.
rent the place and be here while it's going on.
Hmm.
Can be done, but is you have to be experienced in construction. You have to be experienced with the way they do business here. You have to be experienced. You better be very familiar with Panama, the process,
Yes.
building, because they cut a lot of corners here. If you're not, if you have your own contractor, it's easy for them to cut corners
Yeah.
and with somebody that you trust. But I've seen some folks that really have some good projects. And Monica, they had some really, they had projects that are really, really nice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But they're the pain
Yes,
that they've gone through to get
right,
those projects completed is just kind of pain that I'd rather avoid if
right,
necessary. So
yes,
I like what they call in the United States a PUD, planned urban development. I like planned communities. I like, I mean, I'm okay with the cookie cutter for now. I like the planned community, and I like HOAs. Some people hate HOAs. A lot of people in Panama are just becoming
important,
accustomed to them. But
important,
an HOA to me is necessary, because
important.
we need, in
Security,
order to keep the consistency and the quality, you have to have a neutral enforcement. And some of the rules are going to be stuff you don't love, and some of it's going to be stuff that you do. But I like the fact that we have an HOA, an active
yeah,
HOA. as our community. And
What I like,
is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up, Mr. Van Horn?
well, what I like about it, I like the gated community portion. Most of all, your unwanted guests cannot come to your door and knock on your door. Mhm.
Yeah, they got to get through security.
Oh yeah, taking pictures, turning ID, just fight up in the gate all the time. But they don't want to try that. I don't know. But yes, I want to say I really thank you for the interview, and I'm able to express my experience and my advice to those who are receptive to it and stuff. But I want to say, if you're coming, I'll be here with an open heart to help you out as much as I can.
And he means that, y'all. He really, really, really does mean that. And we want to see, we want as many people as possible to be able to at least experience Panama. And just for me to be so in love with Panama is just something that I could have never ever expected. I want my whole family to come and be a part of that as well. And I like Brisa because I think Brisa is diverse. I think Brisa is diverse, and you were saying, Al, they have a really big military community,
Oh yes,
U.S. military community.
there's about 3,000 retired veterans, and they live in Brisas,
Yes.
veterans, and that's a big community. And that's
Yeah.
not counting the returning New Yorkers. They got a one portion they call Little Brooklyn, and it's a nice neighborhood.
Really?
That where Greg lives, that's
Okay.
that's Little Brooklyn. Must you will know him when just the way that you would spot him.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody from Brooklyn when you see Greg.
Well, I like that it's a diverse community, and that you have it's attractive to African Americans, that are moving there, that are like have military backgrounds, because there's a lot of like African American vets there, right?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, they do. They have them, and a lot of them goes into. I was surprised they go into the mountains in Stadia because they want to be assimilated, and they have issue. But now that we have services,
Mm-hmm.
psychological services there. They have sold the place and come down, or buy the place in the city and come down here and stuff, and they can socialize now.
And in Brisa, the traffic is manageable.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I know that they're continually building, and I haven't been there in a minute. And we have an IHOP.
Oh, we had all kind of restaurants.
But I like it. I think it's I like it. And I haven't been everywhere in Panama, but like I always say, out of all the places that I have been in Panama, I like calling Brisas Del Golf Norte home. So
Well, what I'm finding out is a lot of people think that's the correct traffic is because a lot of folks that come here, they don't even live in this area. They just come for the
stores and stuff.
For the stores and the hiking and for the parks, and they bring their family, the cars full of bicycle, and it's safe. And unfortunately, by the park, you would see in the car in the road, they'll be parked three cars deep. And parking. That's what people like it over
here. Yeah, it's nice. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go. But
thank you so much, and thank you for loving Panama, and thank you for loving my family, and thank you for loving me.
Yes, and I do love you. I do love you. And as a matter of fact, we are coming up. November 7th is 27 years since I met you. Unbelievable.
Raising hell in the
It was a good day. It was a good day. So I look forward to seeing you.
It was a good Sunday. It was a good Sunday.
It was a good Sunday. Okay, well, listen, thank you for sharing your story and your perspective, and I will talk to you later. This is Charlotte Van Horn with Black Expats in Panama, And I hope that you have enjoyed this interview with my favorite husbandman friend, Alfredo. And follow us on Facebook at Black Expats in Panama. And also you can subscribe to our Locks Forever YouTube channel for more interviews and updates. Until I see you next time, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, bye.